The current session is an extension of the previous one. It's about interacting with end users and digitalization. Let me introduce our moderator, Dennis Herber, the main expert for lubricants in Sibor. He is a graduate from the Mendeleev Chemical Technology University with 13 years of experience under his belt in international chemical companies. Good afternoon, colleagues. I am honored to moderate the final session of the conference dedicated to interacting with end users and digitalization. Important questions were asked today, and I invite you to be active in asking your questions in order to fuel our discussion. Digitalization is something that has been going on actively and for a while. However, the current challenges accelerated this process tenfold, and Sibor is an example of this response to the global challenge through development of digitalization in all industries. And I'm hopeful that the speakers will provide more detail about how their companies respond to the current challenges. So let me introduce our panelists and speakers. Alexander Yakovlev, Director for Online Automotive Research, Senior Client Officer. Igor Sheyenkov, Deputy General Director for Development, Export Sales and Production, Localization from Rosneft Lubricants. And Artyom Mazaev, Business Development Manager from Oats. Alexander, the floor is yours. I'll try to be simple in speaking about simple things. We are after lunch, after all. I'm from Ipsos, which is a global research company that studies markets and consumers. And our main technique of research is surveying the clients. I'm talking about people with their passenger vehicles, and all the numbers that I'm going to quote are essentially from the responses that we got during our polling. The presentation topic is rather trite, it may seem, but in order to understand better the context in the lubricants market, we need to understand better what's around it. So hence the term Corona crisis, which I personally don't like. The first thing I would like to begin is to try to answer the question. For Russians, is the Corona crisis more about the economy or about the fear of the virus, the fear of getting infected? So we had a global survey. So 1 year ago we were in lockdown, were afraid of what was going to come next. The economic situation was in balance, and the question post-lockdown, are you going to return to your normal way of life? We'll see that in Russia, 80% of the respondents, 80% are those. The slide is wrong here. My apologies. I will correct that in the final package of handouts. We are not afraid of the virus. As soon as lockdown is over, we'll go pub crawling, visiting friends, etc. So, and this is the top number for all the countries surveyed. Again, let's look 1 year ago in terms of economic apprehension. 43 Russian respondents said that they were concerned about being able to pay their bills, to foot their obligations. Again, this is one of the biggest numbers for all countries surveyed. So, in answering the question about whether it's economy or virus, the answer is quite clear. This is about the economy for us in Russia. And another number that we got this February is about commitment to vaccination. And we see that Russia is by far the lowest ranking country. Just 42% of people want to get vaccinated, with 89% in Brazil, 87% in the UK, etc. Probably it has to do with our daredevil attitude, but overall, coronavirus as a virus is not a threat to us, doesn't seem a threat to us. So one answer to that question is that the corona crisis has the economic nature. Coming back to the motor oils, so if we say that this is about the economy, looking at last April or May, at the peak of uncertainty and apprehensions, the question was whether people are going to increase the intervals between oil changes. The majority, over 82%, replied that they will continue changing oil as usual, and this is a hugely important indicator. And about 10% said that they would probably increase the interval by 3,000 kilometers. So in terms of all behavioral patterns linked to oil changes essentially remain the same. Savings can be achieved two ways. Either you postpone the purchase or buy something cheaper. So on your left you see the operations. Motor oil replacing filters, brake pads, and other routine maintenance. Car tuning, buying a new car. I'm not sure whether you can see. So I will not postpone the yellow graph, right? So, and oils are the category among all those car-related, is the category where the behavioral pattern changed the least. And looking at those who are not going to postpone their oil change, they were also asked the question whether they're going to save on, and just 19% said that they were going to look for savings. And again, this is the lowest number of respondents for all other categories. So they're not going to postpone, they're not going to save a lot. So, and let's look at the 19% that are going to save. So we asked how they are going to achieve those savings, and the overwhelming majority responded that they are going to buy the same oil, but at a cheaper outlet. So, for example, if someone used to go to the auto dealer, well, right now they would go to a retail outlet, for example. So there is the lower bottom line, but the oil is the same for the car. So it shows how the consumers treat the oil. So this is the category where least savings are expected, and I will talk about why later. Let's proceed. We looked at last April and May, the crisis peak, or the peak of uncertainty, so to speak. So what happened next? We see that since 2017, we see a trend of a growing number of people who change oil more frequently than the OEM recommend. For example, after 7,500 kilometers rather after 15,000. We see that this trend was about to reverse in November last year, but then again, in April it dropped, and then in last November it got back. And I'm talking about oils, which is a unique category. So mileage. So if we sum the lowest three parts of the graph, so 75% of the people normally change oil before 12,000 kilometers are run. But again, the main numbers here: 10,000, here 7,500 kilometers, and here the basic number is 5,000 kilometers. These are the so-called intermediate maintenance. So essentially, if your regular maintenance is 15,000 kilometers, then you change oil at 7,500, and so on. So it means that about 2/3 of the consumers do intermediate maintenance procedures. In terms of base, fully synthetic, semi-synthetic, as of 2018, we have observed certain seasonality. In winter, the higher share of synthetic oil users was observed, whereas semi-synthetic was for summertime. So, but over time, this differential is leveling out. So essentially, we're getting the same numbers for the base oils. So people who use one and the same oil both in winter and in summer. The only major trend that we see changing after the last year's situation is the share of sales online. So those 6, 7, 8% is the share of the online. We see that last November it was 9%. We don't have a number for April, but we believe it's even higher. In terms of digitalization of consumption, I believe this is the biggest change of the market that has taken place as a result of the corona crisis. And we can safely say that the market, almost in its entirety, well, obviously it didn't bounce back 100%, but it's getting back to the pre-pandemic state. And the most important thing to understand here is that oils are the category where there is the maximum difference between the importance of the category and understanding of that category. The importance is very high, so if something goes wrong, the engine can fail, and it's very costly. Tires are less important. Brake pads are less important. In terms of understanding, however, the majority do not understand how the oil works in the engine. Well, you can't feel it. With tires, it's very obvious. So you can feel how they brake, how they hold the car. Brake pads the same. They can screech, etc. But you cannot get the same feedback on oils. So hence the discrepancy between the importance and understanding. So oils are number one category where people do not try to save extra, and people want to have a certain buffer degree. So why those intermediate maintenances? I'm just trying to be on the safe side. So the price elasticity is there, but it's minimal. And if the consumer genuinely believes that this particular oil is better, and how to make him believe is a big question. But if they do believe, they will be prepared to pay a lot for this category. This concludes my presentation. I am happy to take questions now. Alexander, thank you. Colleagues, your questions, please. All right, at the end. Then the floor is given to Yegor Shienkov of Rosneft Lubricants.
Hello again, everyone, and thank you for being here, still being here. One thing I would like to understand. Could you clap if you understand what I'm saying? Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. Thank you, organizers, for inviting us. Well, initially, we didn't have a presentation, an almighty presentation, so what we used is a topic that they wanted to have a variety of segments for finished oils, changes in demand and consumers' behavior. We were reluctant, because we've been on the market for many years in all the segments, and as such, we concluded that we have enough expertise to conclude what our consumers think about and how they behave. They keep changing. I've been in this business since 2009, and I've seen quite a few things during my work in marketing and in sales. So we got together with the colleagues, marketing, sales, all the geniuses, technical support too. So, guys, how is this supposed to work? There should be some global or worldwide market trends leading to requirements, to standards applicable to lubricants, and then there should be some Russia-specific things. Yeah, we concurred to that, and then we decided to look at one segment after another. We started with the most thrilling ones. Lubricants for passenger vehicles, PVL, passenger vehicle lubricants. And we started brainstorming what are the trends. Well, first of all, environmental requirements are getting harsher. We all know that that's a good thing. Greenhouse emissions, and CO2 is our enemy. Electric cars, and everybody knows that we have electric buses in Moscow these days, savings of fuel as well. That's a must too, from the standpoint of environment protection and so forth. Other People mentioned right sizing. Well, downsizing is a thing of yesterday. These days, you got to have the right size of your engine, the right engine capacity. Well, it should be no less and no more than the capacity you require. That will lead to less fuel, less iron, less steel consumed, and so forth. That leads to new specifications. Here you can see them and requirements to viscosity. The less viscous the fuel is, the more, the greater the savings are, and so forth. And then we started thinking about the features of Mother Russia. What have we here? If we believe the official statistics, and we have no reasons to doubt it, by the way, it turns out that half of vehicles, 60% actually of vehicles in Russia are older than 10 years. I guess all the ESPs, GF6, A-seat, B-seat, is not about us, it's about us in the future, probably. The good thing is that the sales of new cars are increasing. It used to be 1.5 million. These days it's 2.2 million. There's just one thing. If we collate it with 50 million vehicles running in Russia, then the picture is hardly that promising. Development of the market in figures. It used to be 600, now it's 10,000. The initial plan was to be 25,000. That's what the 2018 forecast said. But then again, you divide it by 50 million, and the picture is hardly that bright. Development of gas motor fuel market. It's a beautiful story. But according to the official statistics, the number of such vehicles is, even with CVL, the situation is not that promising, but well, there have been some good and positive trends, so they should be working. But then a marketing specialist at our meeting spoke up, and he said, "Guys, well, those trends, they are fine, but in, well, this world of commerce, there is just one parameter that is the measure for everything. This is the purchase decision point. When a customer decides to purchase something, that is when everything and anything happens. That decision has its own criteria. Every criterion has its importance, and then the customer has their own information sources. Well, so moreover, in lubricants, such decision points are numerous. Well, this is the longest possible change. It starts with the producer and ends with the consumer for PVL lubricants. At least three decision points. Well, you decide to purchase a lubricant based on your criteria, then the sales and consumer. First of all, wholesale, then retail, then the consumer, three decision points. So, in order for a product to reach the end customer, all three decisions need to be taken. All right. So, let us look at these things to understand the consumer behavior. What does it look like? In Rosneft, we have annual studies of consumer behavior. Why annual? A good question. Well, it doesn't change that much, but nonetheless, we do that. So imagine a person, they are about to purchase some lubricant, so they grab that lubricant in a retail store. And that is actually the main channel for lubricant sales. So you address that person. What is the most important thing to you? 39% mentioned price, 23 brand awareness, 25 recommendation by sellers. Then we have discounts, and then, well, God Almighty, DEM approval on oil can. Wow. Could you answer this question? What about decarbonization? What about decarbonization? Silence, no answer. All right. So we thought, well, the situation is probably changing. Well, new customers come onto the market. So what about the history? The customers are becoming smarter in 2016, and let's compare 2016 and 2020. What do we see? Yes, they have become a bit smarter. Approval, well, 20% know what that is these days. For the remainder, well, no drastic changes. People became more price conscious, but nonetheless, look at this. In terms of replacement of paradigms, well, 2020 was the milestone. But in terms of lubricant sales, no changes whatsoever. People stick to things they have always stuck to. So we decided to use digital tools. Yandex, number of inquiries, low viscosity motor oils, number of inquiries per month, 6,000. New IP class lubricants, even less. Lubricants for hybrid vehicles, even less. How best to reduce emissions of CO2? 13 people are concerned about that. Or more popular oils, lubricants, the number of inquiries is manifold higher. Yet, when you look into, well, number of inquiries about purchases of iPhone, it's just goes beyond the roof. What does it tell us? Same thing it actually does tell us. The market trends are very interesting and thrilling, but they hardly ever change anything. So, a portrait of our typical consumer, global trends, and specifications multiplied by Russia's market feature. In the end of the day, we get a very conservative consumer. They ride a relatively inexpensive vehicle. They want to have something comprehensible. They don't want to risk. They want to have something simple. And forget about trends, about forecasts. There are no indications whatsoever. There is nothing whatsoever indicating that such things will change. Now, a couple of things about B2B. It's a very multifaceted market. Every segment has its own importance criteria. So let us select a point and refer to it as a distributor, decision point for distributors. This is what we brainstormed. CO2 we don't want to have, service line life we want to extend, well, savings we want to have, total cost of ownership we want to reduce. Well, that was mentioned on a number of times. Customization, well, I may have invented that a couple of years ago. Well, it's still a trend. Technical support. Better wear and tear properties. new specifications. We see, of course, now let's look into the stats. Well, they are not very thrilling. 60 to 65% of heavy duty vehicles are older than 15 years. That doesn't change. Share of industry keeps growing, but the pace of that growth is very moderate. So we shouldn't hope that tomorrow or by the end of the month we will have a large number and units of equipment requiring the state of the art lubricants and specifications. We shouldn't hope for that. So all right, now the distributor decision point. Well, as far as our distributors are concerned, they are very pragmatical. They do not believe in the bright, great future of the entire world. They're not exactly keen to go there. They want higher and faster discounts. They are concerned about the quality of merchandise because they don't want to handle claims. But if the price is good, 12% of price conscious, of quality conscious people, well, are there. And B2B market, well, approvals, yes, so the share of DNA conscious people is higher. So as a result, what we see is, the reduction of the cost, but the reduction is not too high. When back in 2008, I started working in this thrilling segment, they told me that I should be concerned about specifications. The GOST issued a federal standard back in 1978. Well, I've been in this business for 12 years, but wherever or whatever they use this for. Well, anyway, let's get back to this formula. Once again, I'm telling you, there are some advanced and conscious buyers and companies with automation systems and management systems, but well, being the major player, we try to catch the overall trends. A very pragmatical company. They issue a tender to procure their lubes. If the tests are passed, then they welcome this product. Well, the main thing is to assure compliance with technical requirements. Well, I don't want to make this presentation totally sad and discourage you completely, so I decided to make this final slide reassuring. It's a quotation. Do you know who the author of this saying is? I didn't know that either. That's Mahatma Gandhi. Be the change you want to see happen. What are the conclusions? The conclusions are as follows. The lubes market is extremely conservative. That is the truth. It took iPhones 10 years to become supercomputers. Well, TV units are now digitals. Well, we don't even use plasma. I have a huge TV in my apartment. I couldn't even dream about that TV 5 years ago. But that does not concern the lubricants market. It does not change that much. Yes, the prices grow. Yes, but if we look into the core of this issue, well, the lubes are the way they used to be, but that doesn't mean that we can sit around and do nothing. Well, and the manufacturers are supposed to bring lots of good and light and pure things into this world. This is a formula my colleague came up with. Actually, it's said to be defined by Richard Beckford. Hi. And change only happens when dissatisfaction with the situation is combined with the vision of what is possible and the first concrete steps, and that exceeds the resistance to the change. So on this market, the task is to wait till there is some dissatisfaction, then come up with the vision of the future and take first steps, because we are actually responsible for the people we supply our merchandise to. That's what I believe. That's all I have to say today. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Igor. Your presentation was a thrill to listen. Well, lots of questions, please. Now another presentation, one more presentation, and then we will move on to Q&A. The floor is yours.
Добрый день, коллеги. Меня зовут Мазаев Артем, я представляю компанию ООЦ. И моя...
Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm Artyom Mazayev from Oats, and my presentation will be about the present and the future of the sales. Oats is a British company that offers a wide range of products for lubricant producers that are used to build the bridge between the producer and the consumer through online sales. About 10 years ago, the experts observed a slow growth of online sales in the consumer market, came up with the forecast that by 2025, the total share of online sales of consumer products, including spare parts and oils, will be about 25%. And this what should have happened. The coronavirus came into play in 2019. That muddled the waters. And as of today, well, at least at the end of 2021, online sales of consumer products reached 20% in European countries, in the US, probably in Russia it's slightly lower, about 18%. So essentially we reached that value much earlier than 2025, as it was forecast earlier. Why? Why the consumers, I'm talking about car owners, why are they buying increasingly online oil and spare parts? First, they're price conscious. Second, user experience. They just go to a site, filter everything they need. Wide range. They can buy everything visiting one and the same page. Oil filter, oil, shipping, transparency, returns if something goes wrong. What's happening with this sales channel? How is it growing? Looking at the beginning of 2020, visiting a lubricant producer's web page, you can see the distributors chain. You will see huge lists of regional dealers, distributors, etc., etc. Lists of retail outlets. However, as of 2010, those lists started to shrink. The lubricant producers became more involved in distribution and marketing, ousting the independent distributors. Online vendors came into play, and their share began growing. So I believe that the near future, let's say 2025, 2030, is about the role of online sales as the dominant one in the sales of oil and spare parts.
Поставил уже не производителя смазок,
And mind you, I'm no longer talking about lubricant producers, but brand owner. I believe that in 5 to 10 years, the lubricant producer's role is no longer going to be significant in the supply chain. He'll be just a tool blender, a blender of lubricants for anyone who'd like to make their own oil. And this will be a service offered to anyone, but it will be the brand owner who will play the most active part in sales and marketing.
в онлайн-продажах, наверное, можно выделить три группы влияния.
In online sales,
Покупатели,
you can identify three influence groups: the customers themselves, the products that are sold online,
частники, непосредственно онлайн-продавцы. Покупатели
and the online vendors. The customers have specific demands, specific expectations, what they'd like to get from online sales. Products, among the products that are best sellers online, they are the so-called mass products. For example, among autocars, these are spark plugs, filters, oils,
участники, сами участники,
and the players
определенные вызовы, которые
have
вынуждены
the challenges that they need to take into account for their business. Primarily,
логистика,
the biggest challenge is logistics,
которая связана с правильностью подбора
which is linked to proper selection of the part or oil. Because if the selection is wrong and it's delivered, then the cost of delivery will be 30 to 40% of the cost of the part. Essentially, it means it's going to be a loss maker for the supplier.
покупатели. Два типа покупателей совершенно очевидно покупают
There are
запчасти
two types of buyers who purchase auto parts and oils. What's important for oils is that online sales
двумя потребителям группы запчасти.
merge
Потребитель не выделяет отдельно масла.
in auto parts. So consumers do not see it as a separate category. Oils are part of the auto parts group. So we have service stations or garages and private individuals, consumers. On the one hand, the value is identical for them. They, on the one hand,
СТО,
they,
эксперты в области смазочных материалов.
so the service stations are expert in lubricants. They know what kind of oil they would like to order and buy, and they have little time to purchase. They don't want to spend a lot of time. Their money is made servicing the cars.
Иная позиция. Они не знают, что такое смазочные материалы.
Consumers do not know what lubricants are. They are not interested in environmental implications
Характеристиками обладает.
or certain nuances of performances. They would like to get a service,
Масло в двигателе,
change the oil in the engine,
купить масло, фильтр.
and are ready to buy oil and the filter for that. Well, and that's it basically.
Что, то есть в данный момент
So currently, there are two groups of buyers, private individuals and service stations, and according to our estimates, in the near future, the online sales are going to be reserved exclusively for service stations. Private individuals will be removed from that channel. Why? Because cars are getting increasingly complex. They'll take specific tools, knowledge, expertise. Any mistake could lead to costly repairs. This is why car owners in the near future will avoid changing oil or brake pads by themselves. So what happens in the service station segment? We see specialization. If a service station used to offer a wide range of services and could not settle on primary and secondary, what kind of services are core and what kind of non-core, the overall trend is for each service station to be offering a narrow part of services, short, quick repairs, for example, beats, oil change, right, or working with the electrical equipment, or body work, consolidation. Another highly relevant trend right now in view of the pandemic, and I believe the pandemic just brought the situation to the fore. So people were at home, they would repair less, and service stations were forced to consolidate through complex economic situation, lower purchasing capability of consumers, and also in order to survive, service stations need access to information about maintenance and repairs. Buying this information for each maintenance is impossible. It's too costly. But within an association or a franchising program, this becomes possible. And one of the reasons of why Feed Service company has been successful in our market and will good company. Standardization is what the end consumer ultimately wants. They would like to have transparent services provided to them by the service station. They do not want to pay for anything that they don't really need. Again, online, they want to get either the minimal or an average scope of services at a known cost, known in advance. And if a company is able to provide a service like that, is going to be the winner. And talking about oils and technical fluids, you will have noticed that the private oil brands have been spreading and will continue to do so, and they will consume the share of the major players. And I believe that around 5 years ago, car manufacturers realized that there was a lot of money to be made from original lubricants. For example, Renault launched a Motrium brand for post guarantee cars, not just for Renault. Toyota launched Seabrooks, and I can go on. What kind of pitfalls are there made by where the online players fall into? So, online sellers were surprised. Well, were taken by surprise by the coronavirus. Online sales growing twofold or threefold, so they cannot fulfill that demand Nothing else can explain those mistakes. If you go visit a web page of any auto parts dealer or sales dealer, you will see something like that. You will be offered either the brand or the viscosity, the base oil, be it mineral, semi-synthetic or synthetic. So the consumer, as I mentioned before, doesn't care which oil is the best fit for his car. He wants to refer that question to the online seller. So there is no point in asking the consumer what kind of oil you are going to buy from us, mineral or semi-synthetic. Doesn't make sense.
Тут у меня была просто анимация почему-то здесь не работает.
So I can't see the animation I built in there. Another example. One of the online stores suggests that you should select the type of the fluid, for example, motor fluid, then select brand, and then viscosity. As I said, this is not convenient in the slightest for the consumer. As a result, the future is here already. What is supposed to be taking place in 2025 is already here. Online sales of automotive parts, Alexander evaluated about 9 to 10%. I agree with that, even more, 10 to 15%. And online automotive part and sales, as per the experts' estimates, are growing double digits. In the longer term, online customers will comprise service stations only, whereas individuals will stop buying online because they will no longer want to make repairs by themselves, even change oil. So even if they buy oils, they will come to the service station and either this oil is not going to be accepted at the service station because the service stations are positioned to sell what they have, or as feed service. Now, quite 25% of whatever from the consumer who brought their own auto parts and oils. Customers want to have a fast and easy solution. I mean, inputting the model using the VIN number, VIN, or through a number of filters, make, year, etc., and get a recommendation for auto parts and oils. It's very important to mention that the online buyers are using their mobile devices. So online sellers need to take that into account. Their online stores need to be made fit for mobile devices. And another thing which is yet inadequate is for lubricant producers. Lubricant producers do not close the loop from the visit of the customer to selection and to offer to buy. So this doesn't work all the time. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much indeed, Artyom. Dear colleagues, are there any questions? Fire right away. Then I do have a question, or should I say clarification. Artyom, when you talked about internet web trading, did you mean consumer goals or uh, automotive industry? No, that's consumer goods in general. So the automotive industry is more conservative. Yes, yes, roughly 10 to 12%, I meant. So reluctance to be incorrect and proven correct. I think scare of mistakes, errors, means reassignment of risks. The consumer reassigns their risks to manufacturers, and then, well, suppliers are accountable for returns and subsequent supplies of correct things. 10 to 12% is quite a share, I think. As I said, well, the share of online sales keeps growing, so that's not small at all. Yes, I understand. Thank you. Now, online questions, colleagues. The question to Igor. What innovations does your company have in mind to zap the lubricants market? Yeah, I threw in a bunch of slogans. Now I have to answer for them. Well, that's a hard question. Who is the author of this question? Uh, why don't I tell you about finished products prices? That was a joke, of course. Look, about our company. We have a development strategy, and we try to base what we do on the criteria story. We look at the decision points, at the criteria, and we try to come up with products to match these criteria in order to prove that we meet these criteria. And if we take another step forward, then, as far as we are concerned, the most important thing we can do these days is to enlighten the general public about what lubricants mean, how they are made, and what kinds of lubricants are there. My colleagues mentioned that, well, consumers do not actually understand what lubricants are, nor do they understand how lubricants work. And, well, consumer market lubricants are unique because they don't have operational characteristics that could be tested. Suppose you open YouTube on your computer and try and search for lubricants. Odds are that we won't find anything related to reality. People use lubricants to fry stuff. Then there is a video in YouTube where a man takes fresh oil to a lab, fresh lubricant to a lab, and then, well, talks about what they gave him. Oh, this lubricant is in line with its requirements. Wow, what a thrill. So, I call this stuff pseudo-analytics, and that is indeed a task for the manufacturers, for responsible manufacturers. Otherwise, people will overpay, and people don't have to overpay. They don't have to overpay for brand stores and that kind of stuff. Yes, thank you. A clarification. The supply chain, who is the change driver? Well, they say that it is the end consumer only caring about the price. Dri- Driver of what? Well, yeah, requirements to lubricants, yes, new engines, new specifications, yes, manufacturer requirements are the driver. Well, consumer behavior drivers, according to poll results, well, it is the service station mechanics who enjoy the most trust, followed by salespeople. So the task is to enlighten the mechanics, and it would be hard to relay a lot of things to end consumers simply because they, well, do not care. Well, lubricants are hardly a thrilling topic, and with service station mechanics, there is a program. We target mechanics and invite them to participate in a program whereby they use our lubricants, and then they send stuff to a lab and get explanations. So these video clips will later on constitute a proof. Well, you go to a service station and you talk to a mechanic. 70% will tell you things you can see on YouTube. First of all, you need to work with mechanics, and later we'll let them enlighten the consumers. Thank you, Igor. You are the star of this session. Well, we have a bunch of questions addressed to you, colleagues. Igor, how did you decide to come up with your own brand? Your own brand, my brand? Yes, I guess so. No, well, presumably the Rosneft brand. Well, Rosneft manufactures its own base oils and at 6 sites. Yeah. Don't you think that it would be sort of weird not to have their own brand? I have a question too, actually, if I could. In the one presentation ago, I heard about this trend that manufacture manufacturers of brand markets cost more. Well, the lubes market is hardly developing, hardly expanding. So if the market is not expanding, then there will be attempts to squeeze competitors out because the survivors need to, well, the big three will stay on the market. They have nowhere to go. Then what about private brands? There is nothing whatsoever hindering their exit from this market. What say you? Because there will be changes in terms of criteria for consumers' selection. I mean, these days, owners of brands focus on the technical properties of their products. They give free samples out, and they try to gather feedback in terms of performance and lab analysis results and so forth. But in the near future, consumers won't care about such things. They won't viscosity or any other parameters will not interest them.
выбор марки. Он будет выбирать
They will select brands functionally and the decisions will be based on emotions. So the entrance to the market and exit from the market will become easier. Bloggers, celebrities, private individuals, retail networks, service station networks, and others will be keen to introduce their brands. That kind of such brands will keep emerging. They will emerge quickly and disappear quickly. Some will have longer lives, other will have shorter lives. Within this very limited consumption market, yes, well, they will chew off little chunks here and there from the shares of the big three companies. I see, I see. Another question to you, Igor. Does Rosneft supervise and monitor the operations of their distributors? Do you monitor their prices? Yes, of course we do. We monitor the prices. We cannot control them in terms of the current legislation, but we monitor what they do and we collaborate with companies, commercial companies, rendering monitoring services. You all know such service providers, they are international giants. Now, next question. Andrei Strechov clarified that Yandex has more than 30,000 inquiries for low viscosity oils. Okay, I'll punish my marketing people because they provided me with this information. How does Rosneft feel about low viscosity oils in the future? Low viscosity oils are mostly required by owners of new cars. Since, well, there will be new cars, well, the consumption will grow. Of course it will. Two things. Firstly, we need to break the stereotype for stance of some people toward Russian-made lubricants. Some people buy new cars and think that, the Russian-made lubricants do not qualify for such cars, but the share will keep growing, no question about that. Thank you. Artyom Maslov clarifies that. What about forged merchandise? And what steps should be taken in order to battle forged vehicles, forged merchandise, copied merchandise? There is a variety of data in respect of that. Some people say that this is a serious issue, others say it is not that serious. Mostly they forge premium products made overseas because the marginality is higher. We have encountered such issues in the sector of barrel lubricants. So, well, we decided to put stickers on our drums for the customers to access our website and confirm the authenticity. Plus, there has been another initiative. Well, in the future, well, excise stickers will be put on lubricants similar to what we have in alcohol, in the alcohol segment these days. Marking. Well, the technology is yet to be highlighted. Yeah, I'll guess this will be at the country level. Don't sell vehicle lubricants after 10 p.m. Well, we'll just have to wait and see. But these days, well, the probability of purchasing forged foreign oil is higher than that for Russian oil. Artyom, a question to you. What methodology do you recommend for DVS selection? An interesting question. And methodology for what? Assessment of DVS.
Поэтому я могу рекомендовать только
For internal combustion engines, well, I'm not sure about techniques. Well, I guess sampling and lab testing. You could look inside the engine using a probe and search for deposits. Well, yeah, probably the author of the question should clarify it because online it's hard to assess the condition of your engine. Question to Alexander. Do you forecast the reduction of end price for lubricants and their components in the near future on the back of end of the pandemic? Just give me an example of prices dropping in Russia. Has that ever happened in this country? The answer is no. Well, lubricants can become cheaper on the back of altering their structure. Well, growth of share of domestic merchandise should probably bring the price down. So, no prerequisites for a reduction of prices in the near future. Thank you. Clarification addressed to Artyom. About the feature of your activities. Yes, thank you. I should have given you more detail. Oats is a British company. It's been working in Russia for more than 20 years, being a link between end consumers, uh, car owners, and car drivers. Our flagship product is the oil scoopers. If well, you access Shell mobile site or Rosneft site, and then you will be able to select the most suitable lubricant and so on and so forth. Yes, that's one thing. Another thing, we have this new product, Analytics. It helps manufacturers of lubricants assess the extent of their market coverage for a specific market, say as the Russian market. 84%, suppose, of all light-duty vehicles run on Rosneft lubricants. So, what do we have to do to bring that figure to 95%? Such advice we give too. The last product is meant to be used by online sellers of lubricants and or vehicle parts, spare parts sellers. They have dozens of lubricant grades. So we developed the multi-brand lubricant selector software. It helps a consumer or a service station preset the characteristics, criteria
В будущем у нас появится
from
возможность
user. Scroll down, drop down vehicle and select the optimum lubricant, the brand, and everything for or heavy duty vehicles or whatever, including gas generators and so forth.
Вопрос, еще один вопрос Егору.
Thank you. Another question to Yegor that's about academic debate. How fair is it to compare ready oils with additives packages using special investigation techniques? Luckily, we have Tibor here. So, thank you for your presentation. I'm a sales manager. That was more to the point. Can you repeat the question, please, for everyone to understand? How fair is it to compare ready oils using spectrophotometers? So each compound is identical, right? And when we compare, we reach either four nines or the comparison accuracy or even 1. So the comparison for the primary assessment of whether the formulation is correct or not is all right. However, if we take the freshly produced oil and used oil, the correspondence is lower, but there are certain features that can help establish the right links. There was a question about forged lubricants. Quite recently, we found ourselves in a situation when we were asked whether oils of certain producers can be forged. I can tell you that I will personally support Nobel Prize to those to be able to forge certain producers' oils if it can be traced. So everything can be compared. It's fair. I'm hopeful that you are happy with an answer. So thank you very much, colleagues, for your questions. We have this discussion panel to come over. So there are certain subjects we'd like to address. Although this discussion has been already initiated by this flow of questions. The first thing is about e-commerce, growth of internet sales. Obviously, the growth is there, although it's slower for the automotive segment as compared to consumer goods. But what's the consensus? The growth of internet sales, is it the future of automotive parts and oils, or it will have the specificity related to service stations and dealers who will bear the responsibility for selection? So let me be brief. I believe everyone would like to have a say. So we measure the shares of the channel over the past 4 years. the share of the channels, auto parts dealers, non-authorized, fast fitters online have changed within 1 percentage point. So the major shifts had been observed before 2015. Obviously, online is growing, but here it is important. If the baseline is small, everything will be growing. So the 9% that I showed for Moscow, are they going to turn into 15, 20, or 60? Given the channel dynamic, even online channel dynamic, for example, we see a one-way trend for online of 1% per year. The pandemic is going to impact on that. However, to say that online is going to be the mainstream channel may be too premature. What I would like to add is that our Chinese colleagues, for example, say that, and I haven't checked that, they have two sales options. Either they buy oil at the service station, or they buy it online with the delivery to the service station where they service their car. And we can safely assume that will go the same route. However, the Russian soul has its own ways, and even the most obvious trends that were just about to kick in never transpired. We seldom use video comms, although the science fiction films of 70s and 80s of the last century showed video conferences. Electronic books are much more user-friendly than paper books, but we don't use e-books as much. Probably the same thing will happen to online sales, because the soul is asking for something else, communication. I agree that supermarkets will continue to carry certain ranges of oils or tires. There'll be shops in remote locations. The traditional retail is not going to die. It will evolve. For example, the UK has a retail chain, Halfords, that sell a wide range of auto parts and oils, but they are heavily online integrated. You can't just walk into Halfords and buy oil. You can walk in, but you may not find it. So unless you order it online, you may not be able to find it because it's not regularly in the stock. So you should first order it, you'll be told, and then you'll get it. So I believe that online sales have their clear advantages, and this is why the share of online sales is going to grow. Either traditional retail or hypermarkets cannot offer a similar service proposition, and their share respectively is going to decrease because neither price-wise, nor range-wise, nor transparency-wise or fast delivery-wise or in terms of online provision, they can satisfy the growing growing needs of the customer. Let me add one more thing. Traditionally, online channel has been associated traditionally with forged products. 4 or 5 years ago, it was the case, with the major players coming in, such as Ozon, online hypermarkets. So now the attitude is more about I buy it online because there are no fakes there are no forgeries. And I believe that this is one of the most important factors that online players are going to have to deal with. And let me add, the Ozon marketplace, well, essentially it offers the sales platform to certain providers.
как раз из-за того, что
And given that change, there is an increasing number of claims that certain sellers can have unreasonable pricing policy, sell both genuine and fake goods. So, fake or non-fake is not so clear-cut in the online. So I have a similar question. How online aggregators and marketplaces select oils? Or they do not select them at all? Or they just get the purchase orders? Normally, they pay attention to the consumer claims because consumers do not buy from private entrepreneur Ivanov. They buy from Ozon, and all claims go to Ozon. And Ozon has to be involved in the litigation and has to refuse the access to specific to the platform to specific violator. So we have an experience of working with Ozon. We know what distributors work with Ozon. We reached an agreement with Ozon that we monitor this channel, and in our site carries a link to Ozon as official store that sells our oils. And it's not just Ozon. There are also other major aggregators, and we also reached an agreement about stats data exchange, number of queries, etc. I believe that this is quite easily achieved. Can you use those channels not just for sales but also for promotion of new products in particular? You can and you should. We all are getting online sooner or later, and advertising is getting online too. So if we place our ads with invitation to buy from our site, oil is not a product that sells separately. Normally it's bought together with automotive spare parts or in hypermarkets together with foodstuffs. I believe that promotions with links to aggregators is the right strategy.
Да, спасибо, понятно.
Thank you.
Вопрос такой касающий
Another question. Independent dealerships and independent dealership networks, how do they select their suppliers? Dealers of what? Car dealerships? Well, I guess they have a variety of ways to select their suppliers. Price? These days, mostly, I guess. When you go to a service station, an authorized service station for a respected foreign brand, you can get lubricants manufactured by Rosneft or by our peer companies. Optimization of costs, that is one of the responses, and in an attempt to meet requirements by end consumers. Everybody wants to earn money, and well, if you are not in B2B, well, you have to understand that there will be no problems. Well, for official distributors, why pay more? I say. I see. Last question today. For end consumers, what are uh, expectations of end consumers in the end of the day. And well, is this question addressed to me, to all of you? Artyom, the expectations are closely related and closely connected with fears. In the lubricants category, it's a fear of encountering something unpleasant with your engine. Why do service stations purchase lubricants from authorized manufacturers? Well, yes, they understand that there are certain criteria, and if, as long as you stick to them, nothing will happen to your engine. So expectations are closely related to fears and the desire to prevent any unpleasant things happening to engines. Shorter service cycles are caused by fears too, and quite often people use top-notch lubricants and change it even change it more often. It's not like, well, people think I'll use premium lubricants, but change them more rare. No, it's the other way around. You cannot actually give your lubricant a squeeze to test whether it's good or not. It's the expectation and the desire to avoid failures. For PVL, the customers want to reassign accountability to somebody else, to their friends, service stations, sellers, doesn't matter. And they don't care about their reasoning because they don't understand it. Well, the story can be anything and everything. Well, molecules or whatever, you name it. The main thing is have somebody else make your decisions for you. And that is why odds are that people will keep buying same merchandise over and over again. When it's been decided on, thank you, thank goodness, they will keep buying it and keep sticking to it. In the United States, these days, well, it's 15,000 K between replacements, but still, well, car owners change their engine oil every 5,000 K. I didn't believe that, but I saw it with my own proper eyes. 3,000 miles, that's what manufacturers recommend. I guess it's the fears combined with lack of awareness in respect of what goes on in your engine. Well, if you access a specialized website, you can see a bunch of comments, but I don't believe those comments. Consumers just know that something happens in their engines and that they are supposed to change their engine oil because oil impacts their engines in some way. So the question, the answer that naturally comes to mind, change your oil more often. How do you assess the impact of video bloggers on sales? I think online sales are growing. Once again, people spend more and more time online. And yes, people are not too smart. They listen to what bloggers have to say. However stupid that is. But since people well, listen to bloggers, the role of bloggers will become more and more important. So probably lubricant manufacturers will start turning to bloggers. Yes. Yeah, we have been collaborating with bloggers. Well, but well, still they account for a very minor share of the overall of drivers. Roughly 20% of people well look into what bloggers have to say, but the level of trust is very low. People watch video blogs, but they don't believe in those. Yes, so it will keep developing in the future. We cannot escape that, but the efficiency is very questionable. Remember what I showed you? Well, no bloggers there. So that's more like an amusement, right? Rather than a conscious choice. Well, people would much rather watch something about keeping up with the Kardashians. Mechanics are deemed to be impartial specialists. They are impartial and deemed to be impartial experts. And with bloggers, and everybody understands that they are hardly independent. So they're yet to work on their credibility level. Well, I doubt that the mechanics are impartial. As a rule, they sell what they have in their workshops, in their garages, but in terms of the consumers, yeah, I guess. Yes, and another thing, they are deemed to be impartial, and it's a Russian feature. Somebody said something, however stupid, that people tend to trust that as soon as it's on TV or YouTube, then the level of trust drops dramatically. So personal things matter quite a lot in Russia. Mechanics, consultants in stores, they want to sell more, but still, well, when it's internalizable, it's recognized. I can only assume that the importance of brand in the future will become less and less pronounced because if suppliers, online suppliers will come up with sets of parts for maintenance, including lubricants, and well, if they can come up with package deals and without mention of any specifics, people will opt for that. People want guarantees. Well, there are people who are adamant, but and very particular about what they use, but mass consumers, they have neither time nor interest in that. All they care about is their vehicles running. Are there any other questions and comments? Well then, thank you so very much. We've run out of time, and it has been a thrilling discussion. Thank you.
поблагодарить от организаторов,
I would like to thank Global organizers and all the participants for their active involvement. It's a joy to see so many people at the end of the conference. I'd like to thank the panelists and participants of day 1 and 2. Thank you for coming over, and I would also like to thank our participants who joined online. Thank you for sticking with us for 2 days. I have several small announcements. First, you will get all the materials 1 week after. You will be sent a link, password protected, and you'll be able to download all the presentations. Online platform and mobile app will be available to you within 1 week. So please save all your chats and contacts, because after 1 week it will become inaccessible. And also, as I mentioned, we had a competition for the most active online participants. Amazon Ozon voucher. Jalgas Mahash, the Chief Technical Support Manager from Hill Corporation. Thank you for your active involvement. You will get all the details about how to claim your voucher. And this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Who's the lucky one to get 2 nights accommodation voucher? It will only be fair if this is awarded to whoever is present now. If someone's left, sorry, Grigori, as we would say. And the winner is Alexei Lezhnev, Galka International. Alexei, congratulations. So that's the benefit of sticking till the end. Although you must have thought of leaving just after lunch. Well, thank you. I would like to thank organizers for this invitation, and we were able to squeeze it into our schedule. 2 days have been immense, especially in terms of networking. I would like to wish everyone health, development, and, well, stability, which is something that is lacking in our lubricants business at the moment. Thank you. I'm delighted. And I would also like to personally thank you all for staying until the end. There are lots of people who are following us online, and I'm hopeful that time will be better. Times will be better. And I'm looking forward to getting together offline with everyone who are online today next year. So I wish you good health to your near and dear. Your colleagues are heartily invited next year. Wish you that all your dreams and plans come true. Be healthy and see you next year. Stay in touch. The same goes to online participants. See you next time.